It's fall and we're going to do a pumpkin to celebrate the season. So what we need to do is gather our supplies. So you need a piece of paper that is not too thick, okay? A drawing paper or a lighter weight mixed media paper will work. So you need paper, you need pencil and eraser. You need a large paintbrush, a set of watercolors, even though we're just going to be using the black one, a set of crayons, water in a bowl, and paper toweling. Okay, so before we get started, let's pull out the crayons that will work the best for us. Let's see. We're going to pull out our orange. We've got a lighter orange here. That's perfect. Another color of orange. This set of crayons is made for pumpkin coloring. We've got yellow, and then we need our black. Okay. For the night sky, I think I'll use this dark blue, and then I need a brown, a little bit of the ground right under the pumpkin, and then a dark green. Okay. All right, so those are the colors of crayons that you'll need. So you can set your box of crayons off to the side. Okay, so I'm going to draw a pumpkin. Now I want you to do it in pencil, but again, so that you can see where my lines are, I'm going to do it in black Sharpie, but you draw in pencil. Okay, so we're going to start with the middle, and this pumpkin will allow you to make a pumpkin that looks rounded and more realistic. So we're going to start with that. And again, pumpkins aren't perfectly round, and they have little curves and indentations and lumps and that kind of thing. So don't go for perfection. And then we're going to start on this side up at the top, and then we're going to curve it around just short of our first section. And then we're going to do another one and curve it just short of our second section. And then we're going to do basically the same thing, but in the opposite direction. Again, make that just short. See how it's starting to look like it's rounded? And third section just a little bit shorter. Okay, see, mine's not perfect, but you also want to make sure that you're doing a nice large pumpkin that will fill up most of your paper, just like mine. All right, so we're going to do a stem. And notice I made this top line here curved so that it gives the appearance of being a round stem. And then we're going to do a line down the center. Everybody see that? Okay, so let me pull this up here. And then under the pumpkin, we're going to draw the line for the ground, so the horizon line going straight across. And then we're going to do just some, almost looks like a water puddle, but it's not. It's going to be an area that we're going to do some shading. Okay. All right. So we're done with our drawing. Now, the technique that we're using for this particular pumpkin is called batik. Batik is usually, it's a technique that is usually done with fabric, but people are also finding clever ways to do it with paper. And batik is basically a wax resist method and the crayons have wax on them, right, or in them. And so we are going to color everything with crayon, and then we will go over it with just black watercolor paint. Okay, so I'll explain more about how we're going to do that as we get close to that. But one of the things that I want you to do is we're going to take our light orange and we're going to color not quite up all the way to the line. Okay, we want a little bit of white space. And notice I am putting a lot of pressure on my crayon so that you're going to get a lot of wax laid down on your paper. Okay. Something underneath that's causing some problems for me. Now you can also use oil pastels for this if you'd like. But good old crayons will work as well. Now I'm going to show you how to do some shading with your pumpkin so that it looks even rounder, has more dimensionality to it. We're going to do a lot of coloring here, so if you need to take a break and rest your hand, you can do that too. Okay, just remember to not go all the way up to your pencil lines. Again, not all the way up to your pencil lines. And as you finish up a section, if you want to go over it on areas that look a little bit lighter, you can do that. 2 more left to do. Fall is one of my favorite seasons. I really like spring too. I'm not really too fond of really hot and humid weather. I have no idea why I'm living in Kentucky without liking hot and Oh, I know why I'm living in Kentucky. It's an absolutely gorgeous state. But I do like the cooler temperatures. I find I have more energy. Hot and humid weather, I just want to loll about. Plus, all of the animals here on the farm are much happier in cooler conditions. All right. So we've got our first color down. Now I want you to pick up your yellow, and we're going to add yellow right here, kind of like a belt all over the pumpkin. Again, don't go into your white lines, but we're going to add a little bit of yellow. Just in the middle. Okay. And then we're going to do a little darker orange, and we're going to have that darker orange go over the yellow just a little bit. We're just kind of having it overlap. And we don't want it to be like a straight line. We want it to be little variation to it. And then we're going to do the same thing on the bottom. All right. Now we're going to take our very darkest orange, or you can do other colors. You can do like some browns if you want, or you can do totally non-pumpkin-like colors. So with all of these layers, we're getting a really nice layer of wax going here. You're not going to come up quite as far as your medium orange, okay? You can in certain areas, but and we want it to be really dark down here on the bottom, right? Because that's where the biggest shadow is going to be as it's sitting on the ground, right? So we want this really to be Again, keep your white showing there up by the lines. Now I'm going to add a little bit more up here. Bring this up just a little bit because it is the bottom. There you go. And again, you can go back over as you're looking at it. Keep adding those layers until you're happy with it. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our green and, well, let's see if we have a lighter green. We can also layer it a little bit. So let's do, we're going to repeat the same process. Don't go all the way up to your lines. And then we're going to put some shadowing here too. And a little bit down here, where it's going down towards the pumpkin itself. Okay. All right, now we're ready to do the sky. So if you remember, I pulled out this really dark blue, so it looks like it's out at night, and we'll do some highlights on the ground, kind of like it's hitting the moon. It's sitting in the moonlight. And you want to go all the way out to your edge, but not all the way to your line. So it's basically the same technique that we've been doing. You should be a pro at it by now. You might want to turn your crayon around because it will get, the point will get lopsided on you if you don't do that. Figured out what my problem is I have paint areas on my table here, and it's built up paint, and so when I'm going over it, it's making these lines, but nobody will be able to see on our finished project, hopefully. My studio has a lot of paint on all the surfaces, and I get a lot of paint on me. That's never bothered me, because it always meant that I was having fun creating things. And like the pumpkin, if you want to go back and put some more wax on it, or if you want to layer another color of blue on top of it, you can go ahead and do that. Okay. So we've got that. You could even put some purple on it if you want. Okay, so now we're going to pick up some brown. Now, this is just, the pencil line that you drew under here was just for guidance for this color. Okay, so we're not coming up to the lines again. Making this just, it's like it's sitting on in the garden still, right? Waiting to be purchased from somebody so that it can become a jack-o'-lantern. So this can be a little haphazard, doesn't have to be as solid of a color. This is just a suggestion of a shadow, and I'm going to make it a little darker up here. All right. Okay, so the next step is you're going to pick up your black crayon and you're going to go over your pencil lines. Now, obviously mine is going to look a little different from yours because I'm tracing over the Sharpie, but we're just doing lines. Don't fill in all of the white space. We're just doing a line. Press so that you're putting down a lot of wax there. And go over all of your lines except the one on the ground here. Even though I've got mine sharpied, excuse me, I don't want you to. Again, it was just so that you could see what I was drawing. Oh, I am so happy to be doing an art project. I was feeling a little stressed today because I have a lot of work to do and deadlines. This was just the thing I needed to help me feel calmer and happier. Now the trick is to maintain it after I get done with my project. All right. Again, don't do this line with your crayon. Okay, so when you are done with that, I'm going to mess with you a little bit because the next step in batiking is that you want to crumple up either your paper or your fabric so that you will get kind of a crackle look when you uncrumple it. So, goodbye, pumpkin, and I want you to crumple it up in a ball. And then very carefully open it up. And flatten it out with your hands. Okay, you can turn it over, flatten it out. See all those crinkles? Okay. Good. This is going to look good. All right, now get out your watercolor paints and your water in your bowl. Make sure you have your paper towel right there. Okay, so we want this to be a little watery but we don't want it to be too soupy, okay? And we're going to start up here and we want it to be dark. And see what it's doing as I'm painting over it. You can see where the wax is really resisting this. Now, I've done this sort of technique using black shoe polish. It works well. I wasn't sure if everybody would have shoe polish, but I figured everybody would have watercolor set. You can also use ink if you want. Now, if you happen to try this with shoe polish, what you will need to do is take a piece of paper toweling after you're done and wipe off the excess shoe polish. But with the watercolor, see how that's pooling up there? And see how where we've crackled our paper, we're also getting that effect. That is what a batik looks like. This is starting to look so cool. So even the white down here is going to end up being black. Now this is why I wanted you to not, you can try it with copy paper, but I'm afraid that it would fall apart with the amount of water that we're putting on it with our watercolor paints. Now mine's going to look a little different because of this line down here, and then I'm going to go back over it and make it just a little darker under the pumpkin. Okay. Now just a little bit to go, and then we'll be ready to let it dry. Make sure you get your paint all the way out to the edge. See, was it worth crumbling up your pumpkin? I think so. I love the kind of subdued and really interesting texture. One of the principles of art, or the elements of art, is texture. And so we were able to achieve that quite easily with this project. I hope you enjoyed making a pumpkin. You can do the same sort of technique with any kind of subject matter that you want. Just make sure that you use really, bold colors with lots of crayons. Thank you.